Welcome to the program. We are pleased to resume press hour after a short break with your confidence. Today, we apologize for the late start, but the program is starting all the same. Today, we're going to discuss decentralization achievement point, impact on development, and grievances. And we also look at the second budget within COVID-19 context, what lessons to be learned. And we have a full house here with our guest, Barrister Munjem Fombat. He's a barrister at law. He's going to look at the legal implications of what we're going to talk about. Barrister, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Killian. Good afternoon. Good day, televiewers. Good day, co-panelists. It's a pleasure to be on the program, on this our educative program once more.
The pleasure shared. Barrister, we have Leonard Ijani. He's a political scientist. We want to welcome you to the program, sir.
Good afternoon, Killian. Good afternoon, co-panelists, and good afternoon to those watching us. It's always a pleasure to come talk on issues that do maybe affect our country and hope that it might go a long way to impact change from our own small contributions.
That is why we are here, and that's why we invited you. Thank you very much for honoring our invitation. Then we have a colleague, Patrick Moore. Patrick Moore is a desk editor in the Guardian Post newspaper. Welcome to the program, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Killian. It's always a pleasure to be part of this very incisive program, and I hope that our little contribution towards nation building and various changes in the polity will be taken into consideration.
Obviously, it is always taken into consideration as long as we are here, building the nation with our own ideas at our level. We're going to kickstart the discussions with the first things that we have first. The first lot on the program is press review. Our lady, Emanuela Vemny, always there with press review. Emanuela?
The first ever regional council elections in Cameroon gave the press what to report on this week. Cameroon Tribune sees a vote for history as the elections score a pass mark. The lone English daily, The Guardian Post, brings to the fore SDF councillors who defied party's decision vote massively. To the Star, councillors chief vote under maximum security, and Ndian vote 97% for victory despite odds on the crown. But the interest of the median is on the Fonom Binglode first, who voted in Kumbu after all, few weeks after release from captivity. Just when Gokitunja PS vomits Babungo Fund over Mwakang chieftaincy crisis on Newswatch, The Guardian Post writes Babungo Fund's humiliating defeat blamed on Mwakang chieftaincy crisis before reporting that the bedridden traditional ruler ferried to vote drops dead at polling station in the North region. Cameroon Tribune zooms on the pioneer members of the regional council elections unveiled as Mezam Division plans to trade off House of Chiefs leadership for regional president on the Eden. Minat Boss then applauds smooth process of regional elections on municipal updates before the paper writes Tumi speaks out on form of state. CPDM then sets to sanction councillors for boycotting regional elections in Northwest Southwest on The Guardian Post. The Eden quotes Nalova Lyonga, time for belly politics is over. In anticipation of a new government, the Guardian Post questions, shouldn't BIA extend olive branch to MRC SDF separatists? Just when Anglophone crisis causes Cameroon army to be hit by desertion, with hundreds of soldiers believed to have deserted the army on the horizon. Northwest MPs then pressed for health goodies for their constituents in the December session of Parliament on the horizon. The MPs later adopt 4,865.2 billion CFA francs as 2021 budget in stormy session on the Sun, an endorsement of draft bill carried by Cameroon Tribune. As government sets to exclude lawyers from juicy customs litigations in the 2020 finance bill on The Guardian Post, Barrister Kemende vows to put stiff fight in Senate on the same paper. The Bar Council then plans to sanction 10 rebel lawyers who defied their strike action on the horizon. At the time, Cameroonians are said to flood Rwanda Law School on The Voice. According to the paper, 205 out of 219 students are Cameroonians. Then CONAC targets transport sector in the fight against corruption as high consumer goods are said to be in sufficient stock in markets. Shan 2021 and AFCON 2022 Yaoundé infrastructure is scrutinized by Prime Minister just when Cameroonian female international footballer Nchut Ajara wins Norwegian championship. Let's now end our press review with a story on the horizon where a woman, a supposed sex worker in Yaoundé, has killed a Yaoundé businessman and made away with his car. The lady who had approached the man to buy a car got the businessman lustful about her, and they ended up in a hotel room where she supposedly introduced pills into the businessman's drink. After drinking, he slept forever. The sex worker then made away with his car and his telephone while hiding the corpse under the hotel bed. She was later nabbed by forces of law and order. Until I come your way again, this is your Hour with the Press.
Thanks a million, Emanuela, and we're going to go into the discussions. The main event, the main issue on the papers, as we all watched together, was the regional council elections, and it's on that our topic is carved out. Decentralization achievement point, impact on development, and grievances. We know that we've come a long way to go to what we call today an achievement point with the regional elections that took place on the 6th of December. Gentlemen, I'm going to start with you, Leonard Ejani, political scientist. Cameroon has so many problems, and we think that this election, as he said, is going to help solve some of these problems. Let's begin with the problems from the national perspective. North, the Grand North, the South, call it Grand South, the West, Northwest, and the rest.
Yes, generally Cameroon is faced with different crises or insecurity, if I should put it that way, because insecurity today is global in its context, in that we got economic issues, we got violence or insecurity coming from armed attacks or armed violence, like in the northern regions of Cameroon. You go to the east regions, you equally see that. Then even with the English regions, all these different challenges are fundamental challenges in which, if the government does not respond appropriately, it becomes difficult to enhance the development and the different aspirations of the people on the ground. And I think with the elections we had, it was a mechanism reached to see how it can come in to respond to these different challenges and reinforce maybe the participation of the people as to their own development, which will go now a long way to guarantee security. If we should take armed conflict, for instance, remember the military is just celebrating 60 years today. You need to take into consideration the place of popular defense, in which the people themselves participate. A strong bond between the people and the military goes a long way to ensure security. So with, for instance, the decentralization, in which we now see local participation coming in, there is a sense of consciousness, which I think can help Cameroon to face these different challenges.
Yes, Barrister has talked about the conflict, but we know grievances go beyond just the conflict. Sometimes, as he said, in the far north, the conflict is yes, from far north. Before then, we had memos that found solutions. There are some of these one, how can decentralization that has come to what we call an achievement point help solve some of these problems?
I think when you look at grievances, if we look deep down, we'll see that they have one root cause, the problem of governance. When they start being a problem on question marks about governance, it is normal to find conflict ensuing. You talk about the north, you talk about the south. I mean, even go into smaller bulks. The bar is in conflict. The bar is with grievances. The Cameroon Bar Association is organizing strike actions. We see those things. Of recent, we saw in the noon the mayor and the sultan in conflict. So I think these conflicts generally, when there is a problem of governance, it's normal to see such things coming up. And with the regional elections, I think that it will serve as an appeasement. It could bring a solution, because this time around, I think that the ordinary man will actually see his or her own participation in nation building. He will see his own or her own participation in decision making. I'm sure such things will bring some appeasement and will kind of reduce the conflict we're experiencing from every angle of the country.
Yes, Patrick, we are not limiting to, because the whole country, each part of the country has its own grievances. Not long ago, even the center south, and we can add east to it, had one point what we came to qualify, what was actually called the paradox of those who are governing. And the way they started, le paradoxe de pays organisateur. How can this solve such problems, Patrick?
Well, generally, like you have mentioned, those problems are not akin to particular regions. I think the problems are general. And, you know, we might just have the impression that certain areas are facing far bigger problems just because the people have not constituted themselves to come up with certain grievances. If you visit parts of this country, especially the far north region, for example, you will still discover some level of high underdevelopment. In fact, it's some kind of, I want to put it, they find themselves in virtually the extreme position in everything, you know, extreme poverty, extreme underdevelopment, and you name the rest. So, but again, talking about the regional council that is that are being put in place, I'm still very skeptical about the role that they are going to play in alleviating poverty, in changing the dynamics that we have at the moment. Because you might want to put it that we have reached an achievement point, but I think we are still far from that with regards to the process of advancing decentralization in this country.
Now let us listen to Professor Elvis Ngole, who actually puts it as an achievement point, because what is left now after the elections is just to implement. So
how do we achieve if we have not implemented? The point is, you know, when you look at the composition of the various regional assemblies, if you want to put
now,
it
let's listen to him. Okay. Maybe after him, you will understand why it can be called an achievement point. We're going to listen to Professor Elvis Ngole, who is a political scientist, and he's going to tell us how this is an achievement point and where it started, the background.
In the 1996 Constitution, which was the result of the resolutions of the tripartite, it was inserted in the Constitution, Article 1, Paragraph 2, that from now onwards, the state of Cameroon will be a unitary, decentralized state. So it is the Constitution of 1996, which itself was a result of the 1991 tripartite, the tripartite that was convened by the head of state, which brought decentralization as a new way of organizing the republic. So the form of state moved from a unitary, centralized republic, which was the case since 1972, to a unitary, decentralized republic beginning with the Constitution of 1996. And so decentralization has been the wish and has been in the minds of Cameroonians since that time. And so these elections are the final phase, the final stage of completing the process of decentralization, because it's good for Cameroonians to know. Cameroonians wanted decentralization. They have been expecting decentralization. And by decentralization, as enshrined in our Constitution of 1996, I say Article 1, Paragraph 2, it means this national state of Cameroon, the state of Cameroon, has decided, by virtue of the constitution, by virtue of the political will and vision of the president, to devolve or transfer the management of powers from the center in Yaoundé to the new territorial collectivities, which are the regions and the local councils.
Yes, Patrick, before we brought him, the political scientist, Professor Evans Golengole, you were doubting whether it's an achievement point. I think from what he has said is that we have turning points, and the election in itself is a turning point. Putting it into place, implementing what comes after election is another thing, but there is a turning point.
No, you know, I don't want to sound as though the debate today is whether or not we have attained the achievement point. You know, it's not just enough to have these institutions, you know, but what the ordinary Cameroonians expect is to see their lives being transformed after these institutions have been put in place. Because sometimes we have institutions that allow sounding for nothing. You know, we saw the Senate was brought on board in 2003. Much has not changed in terms of legislation in the country. What has the Senate impacted? How has the Senate impacted the lives of ordinary Cameroonians in terms of the kind of laws that are voted? The same laws that go through the Waikele Glass House are the same that go through the Senate. Just for once, we saw a law that was sent back to the National Assembly for re-examination.
Good that you know that I was going to raise it. Yes. You actually accept you've contradicted yourself by saying...
I'm not contradicting. I'm saying
that the Senate has done something.
No. The point I'm trying to make is that I look at the regional council to be like just like the other institutions where most of the deliberations are going to be rubber stamped. If you look at the composition of the various regional assemblies, it leaves you without any doubt that the laws or what is going to sail through those houses will just be what Yaoundé wants. And that is not the decentralization we're talking about.
We are going to get into that when we get into some specifics. When you listen to Professor Elvis Ngolengole, Mr. Ejani, this is going to change something. You have a very high level of analyzing some of these things.
Well, I think it's a turning point. It's a turning point because fundamentally societies are governed by rules and institutions, then principles or values. And these rules and institutions that have been put in place are supposed to be animated by persons. It is from here that we materialize the change which we want as the role the people need to play. If we should come to this, therefore, the fundamental norm, which is our constitution, prescribed that Cameroon should be a decentralized unitary state, which today we are attaining despite the delay. But I think with this question of decentralization, it will be the role of the citizens to understand their place within this new constellation. You know, when democracy was invented in the ancient Greek, there were two key words we saw: citizen and politics, what they call the Greek miracle. A citizen is somebody who participates in the affairs of the state. And if you should come to this quote on decentralization, you'll see Article 40 there, you'll see an Article 41. You realize that the people within the local level, they have been brought at the heart of this process to help themselves. So we should not give ourselves the impression that it is those who were elected yesterday who are to carry all the responsibility. No, the people have a role to play. There is a sense of consciousness which we must bring out from the people.
And it is inscribed?
It is inscribed in the code of decentralization. Barrister can open and you see. You can even go at the level of voting the budget. You see Article 416. They say they consult the people because the budget that will be voted at the regional level must reflect the direct aspirations of the people. Mm-hmm. Because if you should come to the national level, for instance, Yaoundé can decide to give roads. But the people in the regions don't want a road. They want something else. So regions, as to their specificities, can now define budget to respond to those problems. So I think it's a game of responsibility. Like I said, individuals animate institutions and rules. If they fail to play their role, then they fail completely.
Okay, Barrister, let's listen to Barrister. He has invoked the law, and we have a barrister at law here. Does the law actually defend all these points that Mr. Ejani Leonard has raised?
Of course, yes. Regional elections are provided for in the Constitution. They put it into place of regions. The role of regions is clearly defined in the Constitution, clearly defined on the law on decentralization. So I think that the ball will be in the court of the regional councillors to be able to play, because they have the protection of the law. The law says they have the right, they have the powers to anchor or to deliberate to work on the economic, social, health, educational, cultural, and sports development of their region. So it is in the hands of the elected regional councillors. So if it doesn't work, then they are failed. It is not the central government. It is embedded in the hands of the councillors. Yeah. So the law is, they are protected by the law, so now they are bound to work. And the good thing is that they are elected on a limited mandate, which means at the end of their mandate, if they don't produce results, then they'll be kicked out.
They'll be assessed and then kicked out. Patrick?
Yeah, you know, when Barrister speaks and Mr. Ejani, I have the impression that we're not living in the same country. Yes. You know, Cameroon can always pride itself to having the best laws on planet Earth. But it is not just enough to have those laws. Like I was talking about, when you look at the composition of the various regional councils, you know, you still have a very powerful conciliator who is the government representative, who has overwhelming powers, even sometimes over the bureau, the council bureau, the regional bureau, and the regional councillors. You know, like I said at the beginning, I'm skeptical because having these laws is one thing, and implementing some of these laws is always the biggest problem.
I think there is something he's raising there. The conciliator has no role to play vis-a-vis the authorities. Yeah. The role of the conciliator is defined in Article 367. He's simply an intermediary between maybe the people and institutions. If they have problems, they can meet him to see how he can help to solve their problems. He has nothing to do with the House of Divisional Representatives or something to do. And we're talking the regional level, so we should remove him here at the level of maybe power dispensation.
Yes, exactly. The independent, the public conciliator falls within the special status, if I'm not making any mistake. Yes, so Northwest and Southwest. Since you've opened that chapter, let us listen to the Minister of Decentralization and Local Development, George Elanga Obam, who actually tells us what we are going to gain as Northwest and Southwest with the organization of the special status.
What I can say about the special status of the Northwest and the Southwest after the elections is that we are finally going to have the occasion to implement fully what is contained in the special status. It is good for us to say some few words about the special status. The Northwest and the Southwest can be considered like as having a special status because of the history, the culture, and the language that are used there. We want to say that the Anglo-Saxon culture that was implemented in the Northwest and the Southwest lead to the decision taken by the head of state to put an emphasis on the way these two regions were organized. You have an executive in the other regions, that is the president of the regional council, and in the Southwest and the Northwest you have an executive council. You have one organ with the chiefs and the representatives of the divisions in the 8 other regions. You have 2 chambers in the Northwest and the Southwest, the House of the Divisional Representatives and the House of Chiefs. You do have powers in the Northwest and the Southwest that you don't have in the other regions. They can give their opinion when the state is dealing with matters concerning education, justice. They have powers to say their words about the chieftaincy, and they can put in place special organs dedicated to the development of the 2 regions that we don't have in the other regions. one of the first results we are expecting is that when people are going to be in charge of their local affairs, they will be committed to have results. We think we are going to have a peaceful atmosphere reigning in the two regions.
Now, we understood so much from what the minister said there and the way he ended it. When people will be involved, when they will be involved in taking decisions that concern them, they will be committed. I think that's what they were saying. Patrick?
Yeah. Yes, that is the very essence of the regional councils and the House of the Judicial Representatives and all of that, to take power closer to the people. But going in line with, it will appear the special status is limited to the fact that in the other regions there is no House of Chiefs, and in the Northwest and Southwest we have House of Chiefs, which is per se not a house. It's like a committee within the regional assembly, because the understanding is that though they will meet separately sometimes, but most of the discussions will take place at the regional when the regional assembly meets, and so it is not per se an issue of. To me, I don't really consider it to be a House of Chiefs.
What is it?
It is like a committee within the council, because the president of the House of Chiefs is the vice president of the regional council or the regional assembly. So if for example, we were to go back to what was considered then as a House of Chiefs, for example, during just the post-colonial days, where the House of Chiefs was made up of traditional rulers from the Northwest, from the two English-speaking regions, from the Northwest and Southwest, who met separately, and they played the role that, for example, the Senate is playing today. Their deliberations were not directly linked to what was discussed in the
Since you are talking about something which is a law, let us consult a barrister, a legal expert on the set.
Yeah, when we look at the issue of special status for the Northwest and the Southwest regions, we look at it. It's the law has not actually, the law as it is now has not actually defined, has not actually, the ordinary man will not be able to place a finger on what are these special, what are the attributes of the special statutes. It says that the special statute shall take into consideration or conserve the English system of education, the English common law. But if I want to go even just to the legal part, on the common law issue, the special statute gives the impression that the common law shall remain effective in the Northwest and Southwest, which is a good thing. But it is coming at a time when I'm sure about 60% of our laws have already been harmonized. We have the Penal Code, which is a harmonized code. We have the Criminal Procedure Code, which is a harmonized code. We have the OHADA treaties, which are kind of 80% French civil law oriented, which are applicable in the Northwest and Southwest. So when we say the special statute preserves the common law, protects the common law, maybe protecting with regards to what is remaining, the little that is remaining, that has not been harmonized. Maybe the good thing is that the Civil Procedure Code has not been harmonized, which means the common law system of civil proceedings, well, stays applicable, which is a good thing. The Criminal Procedure Code has been harmonized. We have a harmonized Criminal Procedure Code anyway. If you look at the Criminal Procedure Code, it looks like 70% common law.
Exactly, that's what I was going to raise.
Like 70% common
law. So is that not an advantage for
yes.
a country that has to stay together?
Yeah, that is an advantage, I think, for a country that has to stay together. But the point I was making is that when we say the special statutes, the English regions, they maintain their common law tradition. Well, that will be, I'm trying to insist that will be it with regards to the little that is remaining, because much of the things have already been harmonized.
If much of what we're talking about is harmonized, and much of it has taken from the Anglo-Saxon, is it not a plus? Is it not for you to beat your chest?
Well, because about the criminal procedure code.
Yes, particularly also for the OHADA law that was translated, and every lawyer has applauded that. I don't think that in what lawyers had was harmonization, was more of translation.
Yes, we are saying the OHADA law, it is a simple translation. It's a law in principle. When you say translation, we can't really call that an achievement because it is what had to be done. It is not normal that in a bilingual country, a law is promulgated or the law is made available in one language. So the fact that the law was translated at least gives the impression that we are living in one and in the same country.
Okay, we are drifting a bit from that.
Yes. What I was wanted to bring in is that when we talk of these special status, the special status is drawn from the Constitution. If you should go back to Article 62, sub 2, when they talk special status, they say some regions will be considered as to their organization and functioning in line with their specificities.
Yes.
So if we should take these 10 regions, the Northwest and Southwest will be organized differently and will function differently because of specificities. That is why if you should go to the regional assembly, for instance, you will see the regional assembly is made up of the divisional House of Representatives and the House of Chiefs, in which the president of the Executive Regional Council comes from the Divisional House of Representatives, and the Vice President comes from traditional rulers, Article 360, House of Chiefs. They see differently. And that is why you realize that deliberations made at the level of the Divisional House of Representatives is submitted within 24 hours to the House of Chiefs. Article 345 of it is very clear, in which that is why it even holds that the rule on this deliberation, the chiefs. So it's not a committee as per se. It's a house which is even giving some powers to operate. But I'm a political scientist. And laws are instruments, are tools in the hands of those who animate. If the people can't play their role very well, then maybe the decentralization will not succeed. But it has defined their role. And that is why they can send back deliberations for second reading. And when they vote, please let me come to something here. When the House of Chiefs votes, their vote is considered as their number 20.
Yes.
When the Divisional House of Representatives vote, their vote is considered as their number 70. So to third place, unlike the other regions in which the chiefs have been swallowed and vote in line with maybe the other divisional representatives.
Into the regional executive.
The role people play matter. It's all about a question of understanding what the disposition of the law and the political constellation.
Yes, I think that is clear, Patrick. Well, that they actually have their place, the law defends them, and they can play separate roles for development and to make sure that some grievances are taken care of.
No, nobody ever said the contrary. The point I was making was that, I was talking about the House of Chiefs, for example, which is a peculiarity to the Northwest and Southwest region and considered part of the special status and all of that. I was saying that we cannot be rejoicing that we are enjoying special status just because our traditional ruler sits differently. And the point I was making was that what else are they going to debate that will not be debated in the regional council, for example, which is not a preserve for the Northwest and Southwest, which means it will be the same aspiration, will be the same debate. Nothing is going to really change in terms of how the people have been brought closer to power.
I think that
which is the main goal of decentralization.
They have an oversight, a rule of oversight. Yeah. They have committees related to cultural. Yes, they have 2 commissions related to sports culture. They even have related also to things like education. And
the House of Chiefs is made up of 2 commissions. You have a commission which is in charge of administrative affairs, economic, social affairs. That is why I told him that when the deliberating organ in the regional assembly takes into consideration the divisional representatives and the House of Chiefs, they have a power to go through what they have said. And they equally keep prerogatives in line with Article 337, in which they have special issues in line with culture, which is theirs directly. But at the same time, they have an eye on what the divisional representatives are doing. That is why they can rule and reject for a second reading. So constituting their place is important. But there is a mistake I think we are making. We cannot compare the House of Chiefs in the colonial era, in which we were not a sovereign state, to a sovereign period today in which we are a state.
What difference does it make?
At the same time, now let me come. Tell me the powers Ndeli had, for instance, then. So when we are A political deed is appreciated within specific context. If you
so.
don't do that, we are always out of the game. So I just think it's something we should really take. First of all, recognize their role. The law is there. It has defined their place to play. But like I said, institutions are animated by persons.
People.
If persons fail to play their role, institutions will not succeed. So I think it is something which is very simple for us to consider.
I think that debate we can let us look at the public independent conciliator, which also is a peculiarity to the Northwest and Southwest regions. It is somebody who is supposed to be highly experienced, who is to be reputed, who should have a reputed integrity and should have a proven objectivity. Appointed by the decree of the head of state for how many years? 6 years?
6 years.
Non-renewable.
Yes.
So, Barrister, what is the place of this?
Yes. The public independent conciliator, which is linked to the Northwest and the Southwest region, may be also considered as one of the specificities of the special statute.
Is it considered or maybe?
It is. Well, it is. It is a specific because it does not appear in the other regions. Only Northwest and Southwest has it. But when I say appear, it's because I've asked myself some questions as to, first of all, the appointment, the choice of the conciliator, the role of the conciliator, the powers of the conciliator. The conciliator, from what is described in Section 367 of the law, the Code on Decentralization, it gives the impression that this conciliator is there to entertain disputes between individuals and the regional council. The question we ask that at this particular section does not tell us to what extent this conciliation goes. It does not tell us what is the role of this conciliation and what is the role of the courts, because the regional councils, we should know that they are independent administrative organs, which means they have their own organization, they are independent, they have juristic personalities, which means if they have juristic personalities, means anybody is free to take them to the courts. But now the question we're asking is, what is, at what point does...
Before you continue,
yes.
I have the General Code of regional and local authorities here, talking particularly about the independent conciliator.
Yep.
Here it is said the dispute must be between a natural or local or legal person or a public employee and a regional and council public service.
That's right.
The applicant must have filed a prior appeal with the body involved in the dispute.
That's right.
Now, this third one, no competent court must have ruled on the matter.
That is what I'm
it means that there's a distinction between what they do and what the courts do.
No, it says...
I'm coming in because you...
No, the law, that article says that you cannot take a matter that's been ruled to the court to the independent conciliator. That's what it means. Once a court has been ruled, once the court has
differentiation of...
No. That way, you see, where I want to learn is, when we take the case of a situation of the labor code, labor law, it says that any dispute should be submitted for conciliation before the labor inspector. And if the conciliation fails, then the court is seized based on the failure of conciliation. If the conciliation succeeds, then the conciliatory decision becomes a final judgment. You don't need to go to court to execute. But this law does not specify the extent to which the decisions taken by the conciliator to what powers those decisions have. So now, if the public independent conciliator rules and maybe makes an award, can we go straight to execution, or do we need to go to the court again for the court to validate? The law does not actually pinpoint. When there is no agreement, if somebody is not satisfied with the ruling of the independent conciliator, what does the person do? So this, but anyway, I think...
Before you go, I also have it here, where his injunction is not heeded, the public independent conciliator shall prepare a special report, which shall be communicated to the defendant.
Yes.
And
what does it do with it? The law does not say what you do with it. when you communicate to the defendant, if the defendant is not satisfied with it, what do you do?
They tell
or
us.
if the petitioner, that's why I'm saying that the law does not say, like I'm saying, if the legislator really wanted to make things clear, they would have told us that at the end of the conciliation, this is what continues. If I am not satisfied with the outcome of the independent conciliator, what do I do? And again, I'll go back even to the choice of the public independent conciliator. Are they going to be appointed from magistrates? Are they going to be appointed from what walk of life? Because it gives like an open mandate to the head of state. He can appoint anybody he deems experienced. Experienced in which domain? If the independent conciliator is playing the role of a judge, then we could say that an independent conciliator should be appointed from the ranks of magistrates. Then we know that that's somebody who is sitting and will pass judgments.
So where is the problem here?
The problem here is that the role or the importance or the outcome of the conciliation, the outcome of the role of the independent conciliator is not clearly defined by this law. We don't know what to do with it, and we don't also know where does it fit in the judicial system.
Okay, you're going to look for it further?
I just think
yes.
after seeing Article 367 and 368, to start with, it says the president will appoint somebody with high morality. This is what it says. But I think the role of the conciliator really has nothing to do with the judiciary. He's an intermediary who can come in to help solve a problem maybe an individual has with an institution before maybe to see how he can reach peace. But if this fails, they can seize a legal instance, can come in to manage the problem. That is, his role is simply to be a middleman between people to help, because most often too, we used to have situations whereby people are weak, maybe to carry out legal issues before the law. And that is why you realize that if the matter is already at the level of the court, he does not come in.
Okay.
So he comes in before it even goes there. For instance, I am working with the council, because if you should read that law, it gives you the right that an individual can pursue the council, for instance, or any local institution, and there is a problem. I can decide to, first of all, go to the conciliator, who can call the attention of that institution in place to see if an amicable solution can be reached.
Sure.
If it is when it fails that they can maybe go to court. So this is what I perceive from Article 6, 367 and 368.
Which actually means that putting in place of this institution is going to help in, one, development, is going to help in calming down tempers, like the minister said, that there's going, actually, if it's implemented, going to be more peace in these areas, the northwest and southwest.
To check tension.
Yes.
To help solve problems without people forcefully pulling themselves before the court of law or whatsoever. He is just there to appease.
Yes,
now,
I agree with him entirely. The intention of the legislator here, I think, is very good. It's just that they needed to fine-tune, in the sense that it reduces the cost of litigation in the first place. It reduces legal litigations, because, like I always say, for us in the court, I can say if people attempt conciliation before, I'm sure that 50% of the cases that are in court will not go to court. That's a very laudable initiative. This article is very laudable. But my question is, they should have actually made it to be very clear. Is it that you cannot go to court without first passing through the independent conciliator? We are not very clear about that. Okay. If you are not satisfied with the outcome of the independent conciliator, what do you do next? We are not also clear about that. I'm sure that if we had those
clearly stated.
Yes, would have made it. Would have been a very, very enriching.
Now, where is his place, the public independent conciliator, vis-a-vis the other local authorities or administrative authorities, like the governor appointed by the head of state?
No, he's an independent actor.
Yes.
He's an independent actor. He does not work under the instructions of maybe any of the local authorities. Yes. He is on his own.
Answerable.
Answerable. He does what he does, and answerable before the instance that nominates him. So he is on his own, and he's not taking instructions from any person.
Yes, I agree. It's the name itself says it's a public independent conciliator, which means he does not take instructions from anybody. My problem is that it's I think we have this problem where we are thinking of devolving powers to the people, let the people choose their own leadership, and from time to time we find appointments coming in, it gives a misleading. It means sometimes gives a misleading belief that when people don't their choice of their leaders does not really play, because at the end there is somebody appointed from above.
But if I ask you this question, will you continue?
Yes.
That decentralization doesn't cancel the fact that Cameroon is a decentralized unity state. We mean that the central power still have oversight.
No, of course. Everywhere, in every
so
system.
That appointment.
No, with every system, it operates like that. Even for those who are clamoring for federalism, even in a federal system, there is the power of the central government. Of course, the central government can never be wiped out.
So
but the idea
is
continue
to question?
Yes, I know. My idea is that the powers of the central government should be maybe observatory or supervisory. They should not actually be
not present.
Their presence should not be
so much.
Yes, their presence should not be so much, will not be felt so much on the field. They can be there. For example, the law states that the state shall ensure harmonious development. That is Article 55, sub 4 of the Constitution, which states that the state shall ensure the harmonized development of all regional and local authorities on the basis of national solidarity, regional potentials, and inter-regional balance, which means the central government still has a role to be able to ensure that though we have regional councils, but the state has a right of taking some resources from this region to help this other region that is disprivileged and all like that. Role can never be absent. It can never be absent. But we want to see a situation where elected representatives are allowed to carry out their thing themselves.
Patrick, I think we can lay this to rest, that the place of these locally elected people, it's primordial in development and in calming tempers, actually solving some grievances that have been boiling and coming out.
Some grievances, their place will always be there. They are councillors, they are people they are grassroots individuals who understand better the aspirations of the people. And I think that if all we are skeptical now is the implementation of the law. But like Mr. Ajani said, it is incumbent on the people who make up those institutions to see that what is theirs, that their rights are not taken away from them.
Exactly.
But, maybe just before we are concluding. Yes. The last point I wanted to make is that why we keep hoping that decentralization might play the magic wand, Yaoundé equally has to keep a listening ear to the general grievances of the people, especially those who are advocating for some level of federation. Because to me, from the onset and even at this moment, I think federation remains the solution to most of the problems that we face, not only in the Northwest and Southwest, but in the entire country.
He's opening a new chapter. We don't have time to dig in. What's the way forward?
No, I think that, the French, they say that on juge le maçon au pied du mur. So let us stay positive. Let us see what our regional council is. Let us give them time. They might not be perfect, but I think that the important thing is that the councillors should be there, and as time goes on, if they are not perfect, then the adjustments will come, and we'll definitely move to perfection.
Yes, I believe decentralization is an opportunity. A door has been opened in which the people need to seize the opportunity. And if the people refuse to, because there is no system of governance which is perfect. I used to tell people that if we should talk federalism, there are states which are federal and poor and rich at the same time. There are equally states which are experiencing decentralization, rich and poor. It all depends on the people animating. So I think the opportunity is there. It's just for the people to grab it and make something out of it.
Thank you.
It's a process.
Thank you. The time is not on our side.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Tune in next week, same time. But before then, there will be a rebroadcast of this program on CRTV by 3 p.m. And you can watch it at your convenience, CRTV Web, Facebook. Thank you very much. Have a nice day ahead.
CRTV News, ici, toute l'info.
Formé au Cameroun, j'ai joué à Puma Football Club et dans le Cameroun de Yaoundé. Mon rêve a toujours été de voir une grande compétition se jouer sur le sol camerounais. Venez nombreux vivre les moments inédits du football africain.
Total African Nations Championship Cameroun 2020.
Le Cameroun célèbre le talent sportif africain. Du 16 janvier au 7 février 2021, dans les sites de Yaoundé, Fandena, Douala, Bepanda, Douala, Japoma et Limbe, Bouéa.